Good morning. We're here today with Mr. Jeremy Rifkin.
Hello, nice to be here.
Hello. In 2004, you wrote a book, The European Dream.
Yes.
Do you think that this dream is still valid today with the Eurozone at stake?
Well, it's more valuable than ever. Europe's involved in a new project for humanity. The European dream is about quality of life, maintaining the social market model, ensuring that no one's left behind, and creating a sustainable approach to our future for our children and their grandchildren. So it's a European dream, but hopefully it's the world dream for the next generation. And now's a critical time in Europe. There's a lot of discussion post-2008 about the future economic growth plan of Europe. And of course, there's discussions about austerity and new market forms and fiscal reforms and labor reforms. All of that's essential. But I think what we're beginning to realize here in the EU is that Europe has an opportunity to talk about a new economic paradigm, not just for Europe, but for the whole world. And what we're beginning to see here at the European Commission level and at the member states is the development of a third industrial revolution that's going to bring jobs, new business opportunities to Europe, and integrate Europe into a common integrated economic space and political space. It's very exciting.
Your ideas have caught the imagination of most political figures in Europe.
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think because the vision of a third industrial revolution is compelling and it's deliverable. You know, the great economic revolutions occur when new communication revolutions merge with new energy revolutions. The communications organizes the energy. Today, the internet, which is a powerful communication revolution, is just now in Europe beginning to merge with new energies, distributed renewable energies. And we have to imagine in Europe in the years ahead of millions and millions and millions of buildings becoming your own personal power plant. Just like you have your own personal computer, you generate your information. Already we have several million buildings in Europe that are now little power plants. In 10 years from now, we're going to have tens of millions of buildings across Europe and around the world generating their own power from the sun, the wind, the heat under the ground. And people will be able to produce their own energy like they create their own information. Then we're going to lay out an energy internet, a distributed smart grid across Europe, so that when millions and millions of buildings are generating their own green electricity, they can share some that they don't need with others across an energy internet from Ireland all the way to Central and Eastern Europe. Just like you now create your own information on your computer, store it in digital, and share it online. And then we're going to be able to plug in this whole infrastructure, this energy internet, with the new transportation, electric vehicles, fuel cell vehicles. So we create a space where 500 million people can produce their own energy, share in a low-carbon society, have the new transport and communication revolution, and create the jobs and businesses of the 21st century. That's the mission.
How do you see flexible manufacturing technologies such as 3D printing in industry?
As we lay down this third industrial revolution infrastructure, and let me go through the infrastructure. It's 5 pillars. 1, go to renewable energies. 2, convert every single existing building in Europe to your own personal power plant. By the way, Germany's converted 1 million buildings are now partial power plants. Yeah. Pillar 3, put in hydrogen to store these renewable energies because they're intermittent energies. Pillar 4, put in that energy internet using IT technology so everyone can share the energy across Europe. Pillar 5, plug all the infrastructure into transport so we can run our electric and fuel cell vehicles. What we have to imagine is that every community in Europe is a node that creates a 5-pillar infrastructure, and like Wi-Fi, we connect all of those nodes. So everybody is sharing across Europe. And if we do that, the European Union can begin not only to flourish in the 21st century, but it can take that technology revolution and export it all over the world. Everyone in Europe is asking, what's the economic growth plan to get us moving again? Well, the Commission has a plan. And Vice President Tajani in the Industry Ministry is talking about a reindustrialization of Europe, a third industrial revolution plan, and all the elements are there. They just have to be connected. So there's lots of discussions now, as you know, communities are moving to renewable energy. They're beginning to convert their buildings to power plants. They're beginning to put in hydrogen storage around Europe. They're beginning to create this energy internet in various countries, and they're beginning to buy electric vehicles. What the new industrialization plan does is it connects the dots. It puts all these programs together, and it says to the member states and the regions, we got a plan now. It's compelling, it's deliverable, and we can produce jobs and businesses day one. The great economic revolutions occur when we lay down new infrastructures. Second industrial revolution, after World War II. In the United States, we laid down the interstate highways. We created the suburbs. We brought centralized electricity to the rural areas. We put in the oil and gas pipelines across the country, and we had 40 years of prosperity. The EU is now positioned to lead the third industrial revolution, and the commitment to infrastructure means that every community in Europe is going to begin to vest monies, structural funds, private equity, public monies, in putting infrastructure in their communities. That's jobs. The moment a city starts to invest in renewable energies, putting in an energy internet, converting their buildings to power plants, that's jobs. Young people need work. This is going to provide work for millions of young people over the next 40 years to convert the entire infrastructure of Europe to a third industrial revolution paradigm. It's going to provide huge opportunities for small and medium-sized enterprises to do the work and for global companies to aggregate the networks. Now, where does 3D printing fit in? 3D printing is the manufacturing part of this third industrial revolution. Third industrial revolution scales laterally. It allows us to expand capitalism. We call it distributed capitalism. So with 3D printing, we now have several hundred companies that are now doing this, where they can take software in a printer and code for a physical product that becomes developed in the printer, and it pops out like magic. With 3D printing, you use 1/10 of the materials of big centralized factories. And it means that any small and medium-sized business in Europe can buy their own printer, they can put their software in, they can direct the software to create a physical product, it pops out of the printer. Then, the energy they use to power their little factory, or SME, is locally generated by the third industrial revolution infrastructure, their buildings. Then they can market their product all over the world on the internet with no cost. Then their logistics is all green-powered local transport of their own, so they have reduced radically the cost of centralized manufacturing. So it allows us to begin to create a new manufacturing model where the small players, SMEs, producer co-ops, small businesses can come together in communities and be more productive than some of the old centralized companies of the 20th century. Now, the big companies don't disappear. They become more aggregators of networks, whereas the small and medium-sized industries, they become the heart, the soul of the manufacturing of the 21st century. Once you embed 3D printing into a third industrial revolution infrastructure, it's surrounded by everything it needs to be successful. So what I see is manufacturing is coming back to Europe. It's coming back to every continent. The big issue in every country in the world and in every industry and in every company over the next 20 years is not labor costs. This is my message. The real issue of whether you survive and flourish or sink in the next 20 years during this volatile transition between the old energies, which are getting more expensive, the new energies which have to scale in, the big transition is energy costs embedded in your products, your supply chain, and your logistics. To the extent that any industry can reduce their energy costs, it'll dramatically increase their productivity and allow them to flourish. 3D printing radically increases productivity. And when we talk about a growth plan in Europe, it's all got to be about productivity. The silver lining here is by being productive with this new infrastructure, we're also sustainable because we're getting off carbon. And we're fulfilling the EU mandate in 2020 by 2020, and the EU mandate of a low-carbon society by 2050, and we're doing it not with penalties, not with punishments, but by creating an exciting new vision and a compelling game plan so that we can move industry and create a new economic opportunities across Europe.
Thanks, Mr. Rifkin, for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.